notes that I got. I figure we'll kind of wing it for about an hour. I think we can bullshit through football for an
Yeah,
hour.
we can get it in for an hour.
Yeah. Let me get this.
Joel, how you holding up there, man?
Yo, we ain't even started yet. This
I
one.
know, right? You guys going to be on the hunt for a new coach?
Do you got
Nah, man,
tissue?
you got to give him at least 2 years.
Shit.
You got to.
Yeah,
You don't go to a
Got
bowl
to.
game. If you
Those-
I mean,
if you don't go
you gotta think,
500,
man.
you're fired.
You got to think those guys playing for him. He didn't recruit those guys. Jimbo Fisher did. Those
Yeah.
guys. A lot of those guys probably feel like they made a commitment to Jimbo Fisher, and he and at the end of the day, this happens. It's all a business. So he left. So some of those kids, they would like, do I try to leave or do I stay? And no idea who the coach is going to be. And then you bring in Willie Taggart. He's got a new scheme, new offense. It's gonna take him a year or two to get the type of players that he wants to fit that scheme. And I just think, I mean, don't get me wrong, Florida State, they're talented. They always are. They always will be. But they're not making the connection. It seems like with the coach. And in Florida State, they're one of the big schools in football. You got to win. You got to win now. You can't go a year or two playing mediocre football, almost losing to Stanford, getting beat by Syracuse by 3 touchdowns. I mean,
You got to go to a bowl game. You got to go to a bowl
You
game.
got to. You got to.
I don't think we'll make a bowl game this year.
I don't see
No.
a lot of wins on that schedule.
Not the way we're playing. I mean,
Don't.
I've said it from week one. I just want to see them get better. So that's my biggest thing. And I mean, right now I'm not seeing them getting better. So that's my concern. Like, and that's why I agree he's probably going to get 2 years, but let's just be realistic. If Samford is our only win this year, I think he gets fired. Like, and I'm being dead serious because
Yes.
they look very, very bad. I mean, Syracuse is an okay team. They've got a good coach. They beat Clemson last year. Hell, they played
Fuck
Clemson
you.
in like 2 weeks, so we'll see what happens. No, but I'm
No,
being
I know,
serious.
I know.
And they gave Miami. They almost beat Miami last year. Remember, Miami had to come back on them in the fourth quarter. They almost beat Miami last year.
They did.
So I mean, they're a solid team, but and I really think it comes down to the offensive line. The offensive line is just straight garbage. It was garbage last year when Jimbo was there. It didn't get any better. Those guys are all 300-pounders that run pro-style offenses. They're not made. They're not the 250-pounders that he needs for his game play scheme. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm like I said, I'm usually pretty even keel when it comes to new players, new coaches. Just like I am with like Sam Darnold and Saquon Barkley, and
I would be curious because it's almost like he's trying to stick a square peg in a round hole. Because you're right, your players are not what his offense is, right? So you want to win games, stop trying to run your own offense, go recruit people for your offense. But for now, play the pro style offense, play the spread. Don't go east west, play north south. Like play what you got,
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I told you guys last week. Is that's my, as far as coaching goes, I can talk about the players and all that stuff, whatever. And I'm trying to reserve my thoughts, until like Ronnie said, we get some recruits, and maybe they need to learn the system, it just really the biggest concern for me so far is, and I know he's not Jimbo Fisher, but what I liked about Jimbo Fisher is the corrections he made. He could go in at halftime losing by 2 touchdowns,
Right.
and look like they were going to get destroyed, and then Florida State would come out and just absolutely be a completely different team, stopping them on defense, moving up and down the field, and win by 3 touchdowns. So, I don't see any. Willie hasn't done that at all. We're still running the same, looks like 12 plays over and over and over and over and over again. Eventually it's going to work. Well, it's not working. So
I know.
My biggest thing is he's not adjusting at all. He needs to do something different. We've had 3 games now that we've done the same thing and lost 2 pretty handedly, barely won another one by a division from a Division II school. Like at what point in the season does Willie throw the white flag and say, okay, maybe I need to go back to like some high school level football stuff and like just run the ball, throw the ball, like just. I mean, you gotta be a little fluid in college, you know.
You do, but at this point, if your game plan's not working, it should be okay. Let me get the ball in the hands of my playmakers. Let me make them make plays. The Francois, your big running back. You know, let me don't try to scheme nothing. Let me just get the balls in their hands. And let's see what they do. I mean, the schedule it's pretty tough. I mean, you still got Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame. Boston College is not going to be a cakewalk. NC State's not going to be a cakewalk. And you know, you're staring. Oh wow, probably in the face right now. Maybe 4 wins, and that's not going to cut it in Tallahassee. No.
I know. Joe keeps track of like the pulse over there. Like, if people calling for his head already, like, what's the vibe in Tallahassee?
I mean, I would venture to say it's pretty 50-50. I mean, if you're reading the boards, you got a lot of people that are like me. And I don't want to say young or old, but there does seem to be, you kind of do a little Facebook stalking and like, this isn't Florida State football. And I'm like, you guys forget that, once upon a time, Bobby Bowden was going, 6-6, 7-5, stuff like that. Like, there was a couple years there in the late to mid 2000s where Florida State was pretty rough. Not this rough, but I mean, and you do have those people out there that are like, this is garbage, this is ridiculous. And then you got the other guys out there that are like, just give him time. I have faith in Willie, and and that's pretty much the 50-50. And then you got the people like me that stay kind of, I'm like Canada kind of, or Sweden, with a lot of things. I stay pretty even keel. Like, I don't try to jump overboard like too far to one side or the other, like from the get-go. And that's where I'm trying to stay. I mean, at least for the year. I mean, honestly, if he goes 1-11 this year, I'll probably be one of those people that are saying that's just absolutely unacceptable. Like, he better start, if they give him a second year. If he wins one game this year, if and they give him a second season, I swear to God, the first game he loses, like, he better not lose another one. Like, if he has more than two losses next year, like, and then, like, yeah. Well, it's just,
as a Miami fan, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna say, right now Miami's probably a little bit better, but when those two teams play, you got to throw the records out the door. And to me, it's always about the cycle in the state of Florida as far as the big three schools go in football: Florida State, Miami, and Florida. Every 7 to 10 years, it seems like it just recycles itself. One of those schools becomes better than the other two. They win national championships. They get the best recruits. Spurrier did it at Florida, like, Bowden did it at Florida State, Erickson, Jimmy Johnson in Miami. It's a cycle, and Jimbo Fisher kind of had Florida State where, at the top of the mountain. So now I think that cycle has swung, and I think Miami is on the cusp of kind of taking that mantelpiece back. I mean, they're still got a long ways to go, but, out of the three big schools, Miami probably is the better of the two at this point. They seem to be
for sure
winning that recruiting war. And I always said, if you can win the recruiting war in the state of Florida, you can compete for the national championship every year. I mean, that's a given. There was times in the 90s where the winner of the Miami-Florida State game probably was playing for the national title. That's just how it was. So,
I don't think Miami has a shot this year.
Still a long season. You got time to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. That's why I said I'm not jumping one way or the other. Like I said, again, I mean, if he goes. So we got Northern Illinois this week. Hopefully that's a win. We got Louisville. That's probably a loss. We got Miami. That's probably a loss. Wake Forest. We struggled with them last year. We're probably struggling with this year. That's probably a loss. Clemson's probably a loss. NC State's probably a loss. Notre Dame. I mean, I'm just going by what I've seen. I mean, Boston College, they're ranked 23rd. That's probably a loss. And even at this point, Florida, I haven't seen enough on Florida. We've seen both sides of Florida. So Florida might be.
They got beat by Kentucky, so they can't
But I mean, I'm not. I mean, and granted, the Miami and Clemson game, yeah, throw out. Clemson's probably a given. But the Miami game, Miami is looking rougher than I thought they would.
I'm a little surprised too. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of taking it back.
We could throw records out on that one, and maybe they show up. Maybe Willie freaking gets them ready. I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen anything that's made me think that we're gonna win more than maybe Northern Illinois,
3 games,
and maybe Wake Forest, and maybe Florida. So maybe 3-4 games, and those are all big maybes because I just don't.
Ouch.
I don't.
Ouch.
Yeah. And it's, the biggest thing is it's hard for us at Florida State because for the past like 40 years we've had 2 coaches.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. Like there's a lot of programs like Florida and Miami, like they both kind of went through it for a while where they'd have a coach for 2 or 3 years and then it's next coach. All right, 2 or 3 years, next coach, 2 or 3 years. Like for Florida State, like I always kind of laughed when I would see a hire by them and they're like, oh, this is the dude. And I'm like, you guys, he's not as good as you think. And then like 2 years later, they're like, oh God, he sucks so bad. And like, I'm not used to that at Florida State. And it concerns me that like Willie has looked so bad because I'm like, I'm hoping this doesn't start the chain. Like, I don't mind having a few years where we're down, but like, I hope this doesn't start a 10-year chain of 3 coaches. I mean, because Miami was about 10 years since they last had a good coach. And
well, earlier on, you got to think 3 of those coaches left for the NFL. Erickson, Jimmy Johnson, Butch Davis. They wouldn't took NFL jobs.
Yo, that's like 90s. I'm talking the last like 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Well,
Al Golden, Shanahan. Who was before Golden?
Randy Shannon was before Golden. Before Randy Shannon was Coker. Coker went to 2 national titles, won 1.
Coker was before Shannon?
Yeah, Coker was before Shannon.
Randy Shannon was there that long?
Yeah.
God, they let him suck that bad for that
Golden
long?
Golden was there for 5 seasons. Golden was there for, he probably was there a lot longer than he should have been. But, I mean, and then once you get rid of Coker, you had Butch. You had Dennis Erickson, and you had Jimmy Johnson and Snellenberger. So we've had, in the last 10 years, 2008, I think Golden was coaching us then. So, we've probably had about 6 coaches.
Yeah, total. I guess. Okay.
6 total coaches.
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize that Shannon was there from 2007 to 2010. Golden was there from 2011 to 2015. Wow. I didn't realize they let those guys have that many years.
Yeah.
I guess Shannon only got 3 years. I didn't realize Al Golden had 5 years.
Yeah, we gave Golden 5 years.
So yeah, but I mean, still, Randy Shannon and Al Golden really didn't do anything for you, and that's basically 10 years of wasted time. Larry Coker was.
Randy had a couple of good teams, nothing of the caliber that like Butch or Coker had. But he had some good recruits. I mean, Greg Olson played with I think, on a Randy Shannon coach team. And off the top of my head, I think.
Shannon was 28-22 for his career at Miami.
What was his record?
28 wins, 22 losses.
Yeah, I mean.
So he was barely above 500.
His biggest win might have been against Oklahoma one year. That might have been. I think that was his biggest win.
Yeah.
He beat Florida State a couple times.
Yeah.
So, he just he was part of that big Ponzi. Well, he was the coach at Miami when the Shapiro Ponzi scheme came about. So, unfortunately, he had to bite the bullet on that one.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
We'll see.
All right, Justin, let's get started, babe.
Let's do an intro real quick, and then we'll get into kind of the NFL and stuff. I have been recording, by the way, so nothing's gone to waste. But, all right, well, welcome to the podcast. My name is Justin. I'll be your host tonight. I've got my good buddy over here, Joel. How we doing tonight, Joe?
Living a dream, buddy. You know it.
Living the dream. And I got on the other side of me over here, I got my man, Rodney. How we doing tonight, man?
Doing pretty good. Happy hump day, everybody.
Hump day. Hump day. So I have a quick question to start us off tonight, and I kind of love to hear your guys' opinion. I kind of wrote it in here. And I don't know how many people feel about this, but recently I had this thought. Like, I've been at drafts, I've been at like daily fantasy things, I've talked to people, and I honestly feel like as fantasy players, I think people are starting to lose touch with the game. I think people are starting to really rely on apps, starting to rely on consensus rankings, starting to rely on other people for their picks, especially during the drafts. Like I know people who actually can input people's picks as they go and will tell you the best pick you should take at your position. I really feel like we're starting to lose touch with the game, and like it's starting to be less fun to me personally. But like if you ask somebody, okay, why did you pick that guy? Well, because this list told me. Well, that's not a reason. You know what I mean? Go do your own research. So I'd love to hear your opinion. Let's start off with Rodney over there. Let's hear your opinion on this. What's your opinion on that?
Okay, the first, there's two people that do that sort of kind of thing. One, people that are just continuously losing on a year-to-year basis, so they got to try to come up with another plan. Or the second person is the person that knows nothing about fantasy football, okay? Real people that play fantasy football year in and year out. They know all about the draft picks that teams made. They know all about free agent signings. They know all about who's coming back from the team from last year. All those things tie up into the criteria of making their draft picks. They know for certain positions the solid top 5 players that you're going to get. Like, for example, quarterback. You know you're going to take a Drew Brees. You're going to take an Aaron Rodgers. You're going to take a Tom Brady. Maybe a Matt Ryan and a Matt Stafford in there. When you talk about running backs, you're going to take a Le'Veon Bell. You're going to take a Devontae Freeman, a Zeke Elliott. If you play the game and you know the game, you develop your own strategy. You have a strategy for going in every draft. I'm in 4 leagues, and I had a strategy for going in every single league when I did my draft. And I think I came out, probably about 95% satisfied of all the players that I got. And it had nothing to do with, top picks or looking in a book or anything like that. It's all based on what I knew, knowledge from last year, going into this year, even looking at some of the preseason games, like looking at, okay, who looks like they're ready to play in week 1? Who's going to be out? That's a lot of key things. I can't tell you how many times this week players had people in who were out, doubtful, didn't, do their research, the hour before kickoff, and kept them in. And it costs a lot. In my couple of leagues, it costs some people some games. So, to me, I'm always going to make sure that my input, my opinion, is the only one that I'm listening to. I'm not listening to critics or anything like that.
How about you, Joe?
It is simple science. It is simple chemistry and simple biology. On the chemistry side, we've got the dilution of the solution. Okay, and what we've got is fantasy football has gotten so big that everybody wants to play it. I mean, look at my league that I started in a bar with, friends, and it's kind of turned into a little bit of a couple thing. We got some wives that started playing, even guys who didn't, just watch their team and nothing else, now play it, and everybody fights over the Patriots and the Seahawks. In my league, so you just got
in both of them. Wow.
when you have that many people involved in a game, you're gonna get people who take it seriously, and you're gonna get people who don't. And I'm not saying that people who use just simple online apps and consensus ratings are not doing their job. I'm just saying that they don't know as much, and they're probably doing this because their husband plays, or because their friend plays, or maybe they just really like football and want to get into it and have never played before, so they don't know any better. Sure. Not everybody has the dedication or the time. It does take time to do it. I find myself sometimes I'll be scrambling Sunday morning just looking at the latest updates and being like, okay, plug this guy in because I don't know who to play. And I really don't have time to look at the weather and look at what cornerbacks hurt on the other team. So, it's just simple that the pool's getting bigger. So it's not the old school days where guys had to do their research. They had to look up stats in the newspapers. These guys had to be serious about it, So, and that brings me to my next point is that, simple biology. Justin, you just need to get your top hat and your cane out because you're getting a little old, curmudgeon, old man. It is a game. We are all here to play a game, and if people want to have fun with fantasy football, let them. I mean, as long as they're setting their team, and whether it's by, whoever, ESPN's, here's who you should play this week, and that's exactly how they set their lineup, then by all means, let them do it, man. Like, it's a game. We're all here to have fun. Stop being an old man. Stop telling the kids get off your lawn. just let everybody have some fun.
That's absolutely what I'm doing. I don't know, man, because you're right. And honestly, maybe I'm being a little bit short-sighted and a little bit of an old man. I get the wife thing where people don't know and they don't really put the time and the effort. And half the time, their husband's the one running their own fantasy football team or whatever have you. Who should I pick up, honey?
Hold on, I'm gonna cut you off real quick. Let's just be fair to any ladies out there. To be fair, our playoffs was 3/4 women in that league last year, and the championship was 2 women, and obviously one of them won.
And if I recall,
that's a 10-team league, 5-5. So
if I recall, the woman who won drafted 3 tight ends that year, I believe.
What?
No, that was somebody else. That was who she played in the championship.
Oh, okay.
Drafted 3 tight ends.
Still made it to the championship.
But still made it.
Okay.
Didn't win it, but still made it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, even like in my league, so my league, for everyone to know, it's like it's $120 buy-in. Everyone's pretty serious about it. But I still see guys like, a lot of people don't know who it is, but there's a guy named Ballbuster in our team. He drafts with an app every year, and somebody else does too. And I don't know, like, it maybe rubbed me the wrong way, and yeah, maybe getting old and shit like that, but it's just like, dude, like, draft your team, man. Kind of like Rodney said, man. Like, at the end of the draft, I was happy with my team, except for the most part, usually. You know what I mean? I went in with a draft strategy. I got who I wanted, and, I know it is what it is, and if you put your time and effort in, you're going to end up being better than the next guy. I get it, but it is what it is. We're going to swap it up now. We finished that topic. We're going to call this podcast Kickers and Quarterbacks for this week, because this shit was bananas. All right? Fucking nanas, right?
BANNAS.
Crazy, dude. So we actually had this fantasy week 5 QBs with 30-plus fantasy points. 30-plus fantasy points. Are you guys buying in on the Ryan Fitzmagic? Are you bought in yet?
Dude, I'm buying in. I'm all in for Superfly. Superfly Fitzpatrick, bro. You see that outfit?
Dude, I was gonna say that was one of my quick hit notes. Was that outfit, bro? He straight up quote unquote borrowed Deshaun Jackson stuff. Did you see Deshaun came out during the interview in like his skivvies and was like, bro, and he's like, don't hate because I make it look good. Like, I'm like, oh my god, who is this guy?
That's the suit Deshaun Jackson wears to the strip clubs in Tampa. He's had it front of the car. Put it on, bro.
I think Fitzpatrick's balls dropped that day, honestly.
Dude, Jameis Winston may be finding another place for it.
He's gone. It's a Tim Tebow situation if you start with Jameis. They're going to be starting chanting Ryan Fitzpatrick's name every fucking game. It's done. Jameis doesn't play.
If they beat Pittsburgh Monday night, Jameis.
Oh my God, it's over.
He's not coming back. He's not. They'll trade him tomorrow. They'll trade him tomorrow.
They're not going to go that far. I'm
You're not sold?
I'm the even keel guy kind of thing. I try to hold off. I know he's had 2 great weeks, but the Saints defense has looked pretty rough, and
but they beat the Eagles.
I thought the Phillies looked. I thought the Eagles looked a little rough against Atlanta. The offense couldn't take advantage of it. So people are going to start walking down Deshaun Jackson. That was one of the big fans that kept opening up. Howard got that huge run where 2 guys bounced off him like idiots. God, just wrap your player up. No, it wasn't even beast. They were just bad tackles, and then no one was behind. Don't even get me started. That O.J. Howard is a chump.
He's like a black Gronkowski.
It's like a black Gronkowski.
No, not even close. Howard is, bro. Please go get him in all your.
Yeah.
Go get him in all your leagues. Yeah, see how that works out for you.
Good job, Kittle. Good job.
right?
Let's see what happens.
So, I'm just not sold on it. He does it sometimes, and like I said, I'm not surprised by it because he did it with the Jets a few times. But he also had some horrible games, and he's gonna have horrible games.
I think the
They're
difference
gonna
between
keep Winston.
him now,
They're going to keep
that's
Winston.
he's got weapons in Tampa. He had nobody in New York. He's got Mike Evans. He's got Deshaun Jackson.
That's not true. He had Brandon Marshall. He had Brandon Marshall and not Eckler.
Marshall was good.
Who
Brandon
Who
Marshall
was the
kind of
second one? It wasn't
Who's the
Marshall.
small white Decker? He had Eric Decker.
Eric Decker. Yeah,
He
yeah.
had Eric Decker. So he definitely did have some tools down there. And I actually, you know what?
But they were old guys though at the time too, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Deshaun's
Here's the
young, Evans is young.
Deshaun Jackson's not that young.
He's like 30, 32.
He runs like a 25-year-old.
But exactly. He can still
Wow.
go 4.2, you know what I'm saying, is 60, 70 yards. I told you he's an Eagle killer.
4.2.
Eagle
Let's
killer.
relax for a second.
He's running a 4.2, 4.3.
He runs faster than Bo Jackson.
I think it's more so that he's just having fun. I think and that's the biggest thing for me, and why you would put Jameis on the bench, and it's not just because of the stats and that. I mean, that team's having fun, and I think that's part of it. They're going. I don't think Fitzpatrick really cares. I think he knows that this is probably his last hoorah. Like, he's definitely older. He was a backup until this happened, and I think he's just kind of like, hey, let's have some fun with it, man. Like, I see the end of my career coming. Like, let's go out there and play ball. And I think the guys are all on board. I think that's why Deshaun came out in his skivvies and was like, bro, like, they're having fun. And I think that's more. I think that's more of the.
They're having fun and they're winning. So
yeah, well, winning is fun. So
there you go.
And that's,
you putting up W's every week.
but I'm not buying it. I don't think they're a playoff contender. Not in that division.
Wow.
I think the Saints will get theirs turned around.
They're going to be competing by the end, though, I will say. And what's really cool is I heard a podcast earlier, and one of the coaches was talking, one of the co-hosts was actually doing an interview with the head coach earlier this year before the preseason, and he asked him what was some of the main things that he's focused on this year, and one of them had nothing to do with the quarterback situation. But this very second thing he said was, we cannot let Ryan Fitzpatrick be a free agent next year. It wasn't about making Jameis better. It wasn't about anything. And this is before preseason. And because he says that Ryan Fitzpatrick is such a leader in that locker room. He leads those men. He's such a he is such a cog, and he was so important to the head coach that he said that. He wasn't even mentioning Jameis or making him better. He had such faith and wanted to keep Fitzpatrick around even as a backup if he had to. They were going to pay that man regardless, and now he's showing out. So.
Well, last year during the Hard Knocks, which I think they covered Tampa Bay,
correct,
Fitzpatrick played better in the preseason than Jameis Winston did. I think they knew last year that he probably was the better of the two. But, you spend that kind of money on a draft pick, he's got to play. It's sort of kind of like the whole Kirk Cousins RG3 thing. Jay Gruden knew Kirk Cousins was the better quarterback, and he knew in order for them to win, he was going to have to play. He was going to have to start. And I think the coach of Tampa Bay realizes that Fitzpatrick's probably the better of the two quarterbacks. And in order for them to win, he's going to have to play. And you just said it. He's experienced. Jameis has only been in the league, this is his, third year?
But here's the thing, is like, it's your third or fourth year, and Deshaun Jackson even said it, man. Like, Jameis could not hit Deshaun to save his life. Downfield, middle of the field, didn't matter. He could never hit Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson's having fun. That's why he's giving Fitzpatrick his wardrobe and having fun with him, because he can actually hit him in stride, and Deshaun Jackson makes things happen in the secondary. He just does. That's been his MO the whole time.
Ball hawk, man. Ball hawk.
Crazy, dude. I mean, you go up by 7 points in the first 20 seconds of both games because of Deshaun Jackson going for 70 yards plus. God,
to the house.
To the house. So I'm kind of bought in a little bit. I think he's going to do pretty well. Honestly, I think it's going to be another New York Jets lightning in a bottle scenario. We'll see how it goes. Personally.
Yeah, I want to see what they do Monday night against Pittsburgh.
We'll see. Pittsburgh struggling. That's a good segue.
Their defense is crap too, man. You're probably going to see another 40-point shootout.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's surprisingly, Pittsburgh usually always has a good defense.
That's a good segue. I wanted to touch on Pittsburgh. I want to get you guys' opinion because I know Antonio Brown didn't come to the meetings Monday, Tuesday. He showed up today. You know the Le'Veon Bell situation. What's your guys' opinion on the whole Pittsburgh situation?
Go ahead, Joel. You started off.
Go ahead, Joe.
Man, I don't even know where to start. And, you know, I don't want to call it a dumpster fire yet, but my dad's a big Pittsburgh fan. My grandfather went to the hospital today, and so we were chatting, and he didn't watch the NFL last year because of the whole kneeling thing. He has a little bit this year, but not much. We brought up Pittsburgh because he's a big Pittsburgh fan. And I was like, you'll be happy to know that they kind of look like a dumpster fire, and he's like, that brings me so much joy in my life. And he's a big fan. You know what I mean? So, but you know, I don't know where to place the blame, whether it's ownership or the GM or the coach. But that whole atmosphere is just toxic right now, and I'm not a coach. I'm not an NFL coach. I can't even pretend to be in Tomlin's shoes right now. I'm not envious of it because something's got to change, and I don't know what it is. You know, honestly, maybe it is Bell coming back. Like, it just, all right, let's, you know.
You shut your mouth, sir. I've got Connor in every league.
I mean, I'm not talking from a fantasy perspective. I'm talking literally from the team. Like, there is a toxic atmosphere there. The fact that, you know, and they can say Antonio Brown mispracticed on Monday because of, you know, personal reasons, whatever. And, what's an excuse or excuse? We're not going to talk on that. This is between me and him. Bullshit. You know, this guy came, you know, this former, you know, PR guy from the Pittsburgh came out and said Antonio Brown wouldn't be anything without Big Ben. And Antonio Brown got all butthurt and said something dumb like trade me, see what happens. And it's like, okay, that's pretty cryptic. Does that mean he wants a trade, or is he just clapping back? And why is he clapping back to this, you know, former PR guy? Why does it matter that much, really, bro? I just, and then he doesn't show up, and now Mike Tomlin's like, oh well, it was a personal thing between me and him, because they're not going to sit Antonio Brown, which makes it even worse. It's a toxic atmosphere there, and you know, it just, I don't think it gives any reason for Le'Veon Bell to come back, honestly, and I think it's unfortunate because they've crossed the bridge with Antonio or Le'Veon, so I don't see them signing him to a long-term deal. So I don't see that being the fix, you know, and honestly, I think that might be that would probably be the best fix if they just said, you know what, we were wrong. You were right. We'll pay you. We'll bring you in for a contract. He comes in. Everybody, the whole team's like, yeah, you know, all right. And then they come out and just start balling, right?
Bullshit.
But no, I mean, you don't think it would? You don't think it would change the atmosphere if Le'Veon Bell came back? And they
absolutely. That offensive line, absolutely, in the wrong direction. Everyone would hate him. I don't think it would make it better, honestly, at this point. You think the way Connor's been running, the way that the offensive line wraps their arms around that guy, you think Le'Veon Bell, who's shit on this team for the first preseason, first couple weeks of this season, you think it's going to get any better if he comes back? They're not going to forgive him. He's got to stand up. I don't think so.
Bull crap. I'm telling you right now. Le'Veon Bell is a special talent, which is why he was being drafted in fantasy league so high and why he's commanding all this money.
No.
He would have winning cures all and big games. So if he came back the first time he scored 3 touchdowns in a game and ran for 150 yards, they'd be celebrating just as much as him as James Conner. They really would. But again, it's a toxic atmosphere, and that Le'Veon Bell's not going to happen.
Are they making the playoffs?
They can still make the playoffs. I mean, that division that they're in, Cincinnati's not that good. They're not 2-0 good.
I'm not.
They beat the Colts. They beat the Ravens. That's what's a divisional game. So no, they're not that good.
I don't know if they are.
You know, it's Marvin Lewis. You know he's going to find a way to lose down the stretch. He always does. That's just Marvin Lewis's MO. It's Cincinnati. You know, right now Mixon's not healthy. So Bernard's going to be taking a bulk of the carries. Mm-hmm. Now, AJ Green is still a beast. He's still a beast. But it's like I said, it's Cincinnati. I'm not sold on them being 2-0. I mean, I know they're 2-0, but I'm not sold on them as far as like favorites in that division. In Pittsburgh, they've got legitimate backups. They've got, you know, Connor. They've got
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Juju.
They got
They got the Jesse James had a baller of a game last week for them, and they got Big Ben still. So I mean, the offense can put up points. Their problem is the defense right now. Their defense can't stop anybody. They made Patrick Mahomes look like Joe Montana on Sunday. I mean, seriously, it's 6 touchdowns. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's got a load of weapons, but still, honestly, I mean, you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're not supposed to be giving up 6 touchdowns to a quarterback starting in his first year. That's not supposed to happen. So,
Agreed.
And I still think the whole Le'Veon Bell thing. I think a lot of those players knew from day one when training camp started he ain't going to be here. So they probably already mentally have prepared themselves to be playing without him. So
yeah, that's
it's week 2, but it's like what, the second month that they've been together. If he ain't showed up in training camp, he didn't show up in preseason. You got to pretty much figure he ain't gonna show up.
I want to chime in just real quick because they were talking actually about this week. Some people have opened up, and I think it's because they're realizing that he's probably going to hold out until week 10.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some insider sources that have been opening up a little more, and I think part of the talk, and probably added to some of the toxicness that is happening this week, is that some of the players that have been trashing him so much have said that, because people have been getting on them, and they're like, well, he also told us this preseason and this summer that, like, yes, he was going to hold out, but he was going to be here, and he's not. So it's not that the players didn't know he was holding out. That he actually told people, like, I'm coming back, and then he didn't. And vice versa, which adds to toxic atmosphere, was that the GMs apparently, supposedly from inside sources, the office personnel actually thought he's probably not going to show up, and he's probably going to just didn't. And so they didn't, without telling the team that, without telling the coach that, that creates trust issues, that kind of thing. So I think you actually got it. According to some sources close to the franchise, that player wasn't.
You're breaking up, Joe.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I thought you were too.
Yeah, you're good. According to sources, what?
Just that, he had, what I said with the players, he had told players that he was coming back, that there's a mistrust there.
Sure.
Well, it's week 2. He's got the week, 10?
Yep.
8 weeks.
And I told you guys in the first podcast, right? If they go, say, 0-5 or even 2-5 or 2-3, or I honestly think by week 6-ish he's gonna start thinking about it. If they're not doing too hot by week 6, they're gonna call him. They're gonna have to talk to him. I think something's gonna happen around then. Yeah, at a minimum, let's say
Rodney, is Justin freezing on you?
Yeah.
Is he? Am I?
Yeah, Justin. Yeah, you're freezing up. I mean, we can hear you now, but
can you hear me now? You good?
Yeah, you're good now.
All right. I think, like I said, week 6, if they're struggling still, I think something might happen at that point. I mean,
well, what if defense is giving up like 30 points a game and the offense is scoring? The offense is continually. What if they're losing games like 35-38? They just can't stop anybody on defense. Le'Veon Bell ain't gonna change that. So I don't see the need in hurrying up to sign him if they're losing games because the defense can't stop anybody.
True.
I mean, if it's a situation where Connor gets hurt, then they push the panic button, and then I think you have to bring Le'Veon Bell in at that point. But I think they're willing to play it out, see what happens. It's pretty much going to be a game of chicken. Whoever blinks first. So,
yep. Agreed.
It's the NFL.
You still there, Joe? Yeah. Sweet. So, all right, let's hop over to another controversial call. We all kind of heard about the Clay Matthews call. Love to touch on that a little bit, what your opinion was. I rewatched it. I don't know if you guys watched it or not. Rodney, did you watch it at all? Any of you guys watch that call at all? That caused that game to go to a tie?
Which?
So the roughing the passer.
Green Bay, Minnesota game?
Yeah.
The low hit on
Aaron Rodgers. That was a terrible call. It was awful. It was an awful call. Green Bay had won that game, and then which is probably the reason why karma made it to where the Minnesota kicker missed 2 chip shots, because that game shouldn't have went to overtime anyways. It was a great game, nonetheless. Kirk Cousins, does he not look good in the Minnesota uniform right now?
Right.
So I mean, it's one of those things, and I listened to a sports announcer out of DC interview one of the officials in the NFL, and they were kind of talking about that rule. And the way that he explained it is, they expect for when that quarterback gets hit, for that defender to try to maneuver his body into a way where the quarterback lands on his side, not all the impact going down on his back. And they said if you can attempt to do that, or make a sign that you're trying to attempt to do that, then you won't get the flag. But if a normal a shoulder pad into the stomach, and you look like you're lifting that quarterback and all your weight coming down on him, then they're throwing the flag on that. To me, it was a textbook, hit by Clay Matthews, and it was a horrible call. And you've seen the difference in the hits, or on Cam Newton or Andrew Luck. Those were blatant 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct calls. Players should have been ejected, whatever. And then you see that play right there on Kirk Cousins, and you're like, wow. If you can't hit the quarterback now, you're probably going to see scenarios where you see the quarterback putting up these gaudy numbers. It is. You guys know that this past Sunday was the most yards that a total amount of quarterbacks have thrown in NFL history. You had I think 3 quarterbacks that threw for 400 yards this past week, which is crazy in itself.
Yeah, you had 5 quarterbacks at 30-plus fantasy points, and that's ridiculous. And that's in normal leagues, not in your crazy whatever you got going on.
You're breaking up on our end again.
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
What is wrong with his phone or with his connection? Jeez. You got a hamster wheel.
Something, dude.
Running that.
It's all hooked up, right? Here. I'm not going to swap. Can you still hear me? Well, shit. Go ahead,
you just
Joe.
frozen.
Hold on.
Yeah, basis stuff. He might have jumped out, tried to jump in.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Kind of.
Fuck you. What the fuck, dude? Maybe this will be better. Let's try calling back in.
In my league.
Who did that?
Justin offered me OBJ and Gordon for Adams. So
Yeah.
Wow, OBJ. Man,
We'll have Saquon Barkley on my team too. So I don't want 2 Giants players on my team. That's kind of part of the thought behind it. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear you now. We can't see you though.
yeah.
Hold on. There. Bam.
There you are.
Oh, God, he's ugly.
Damn. So yeah, I mean, I gave him that. And my opinion on the whole hit thing, though, honestly, and we'll kind of touch on why it's going back to a quarterback league. My whole thing, I think, is that Clay Matthews didn't try to pull up when he could have. It's not that it was a nasty hit, honestly. It wasn't that he tried to drive him into the ground. Personally, I think he could have pulled up a little more. I think he let the ball go, and Clay Matthews went ahead and took the tackle anyway. And you could have done a little bit more. It was a controversial call. The NFL standing by the referees saying, no, it was a good call. But I think we all agree that it's kind of...
But, yeah, you have 2... on Mike and Mike in the morning, they had 2 former heads of the NFL referee, whoever there's one head referee that speaks for everybody, right? They had 2 former NFL referee heads that both said that was a bad call. So, and they were like, I don't work for him anymore, so I can disagree with them. I get why they're trying to back him up, but I completely 100% disagree, and that it was a bad call. So.
Bad call. It's a bad call.
So
And
to kind
that
of
may that tie may cost Minnesota or Green Bay a playoff spot later on in the year.
2 ties in a season already. It's crazy.
Already. Oh,
So this is a funny thing. I know, Joe might have heard this already, but just to kind of your point, we're going back to a quarterback league. Let's run down the top 5 top rushers as far as running backs go in the league right now. Rushing yards total. So number 1, who do you think? Joel, do you know this list already?
Uh,
I can take some stabs at it, but number 1.
Joe, what'd you say? Joel's breaking.
I said, yeah. No, sorry, I muted my mic. Yes, I'm relatively familiar with it,
okay.
and I know who the top 2 are. That you're going to be like, I know what you're getting. I know what you're getting.
Yeah. I want to get Rodney's opinion on this. So, Rodney,
number 1 is, or one of the top 2 is it the running back from Denver?
Philip Lindsay.
My wife has him in her league. Lindsay, is he in the top 5?
So he's number 3.
He's number 3.
That's
okay.
a good pick.
Who's
Who's number 1 rushing yards?
leading the league in rushing right now?
Yes.
Let's see. Is it Zeke?
No.
No. No. Not Melvin Gordon.
Nope.
Not Kareem Hunt.
He plays for San Francisco.
It's not Alfred Morris.
Nope. It's Matt Breida. He has the most rushing yards from the line of scrimmage for any running back in the league right now.
Okay, who's number 2?
Number 2. I'll let you take a guess. You haven't guessed him yet. Out of all the guesses you took, number 2 wasn't in that list.
Oh, wow. Well, is it Barber from Tampa Bay?
No.
No? Mm-hmm. It's not the guy from the Ravens. Not the guy. It's in the AFC or NFC?
He plays for Cincinnati.
It's not Mixon, is it?
Mixon, number 2, has the most yards in the line of scrimmage. Rushing.
What?
I have number 2.
Isn't he hurt, though? He's hurt this week.
He's hurt
right?
this week, but I'm saying through week 2, he has 180 yards from the line of scrimmage rushing.
So what does that tell you?
That's telling me that like kind of like to our point. Let's round out the top 5. So number 4 is Lamar Miller
from Houston.
Number 5 is James Conner, which is kind of like okay, but it's telling us that the league is going to a pass happy league because you can't hit the quarterback anymore, right? And you're protecting that quarterback more and more and more, and now you're throwing the ball, and quarterbacks are becoming more important in the league. Personally, running backs are getting thrown to. That's why Chris Thompson had like 13 catches last week. It's crazy. And not to mention, Alex Smith's ADOT, which is average depth of target, is only 3.3 yards, which is the second
he's
shortest.
Check down, Charlie.
He's a check down because he doesn't trust his offense right now.
Well, his receivers can't get separation right now. That's why he had
check. Got Jamison Crowder and Jordan Reed, man. I mean, like what's going on?
Yeah, Reed caught a lot of passes, but he was like a third read in the progression. I mean, the players that you want to get open, the Doxsons, the Richardsons, they're not getting open. They're not creating a separation, which means you can put a Tampa 2 coverage on guys like Crowder. So that only is going to leave you Chris Thompson and Jordan Reed underneath, for picking up, you throw it 4 or 5 yards and you have to try to expect for them to, get some yak yards for you. So if you tackle, if you got a good tackling defense, you stop that. So, I mean, that's the reason why they wouldn't picked up Perriman and picked up Malcolm Floyd today. Because the number 1 targets can't get separation. They need receivers.
So how do you think the league's going, Joel? Like, what's your opinion on the quarterback situation?
I mean, I think it has less to do with quarterbacks than it is just the league trying to make itself safer. I mean, everybody wants to talk about, they're, protecting the quarterback and they're making it a passing league because passing is what's cool and all that stuff. And I mean, you can look at it that way, but I don't think the league is doing this because of, we need to protect our quarterbacks and this and that. I think they're just trying to protect everybody. I mean, let's be honest. There's only one person on that field that doesn't have his head on a swivel, and that's the quarterback. The quarterback is downfield looking for his targets, trying to figure out read defenses. He's not looking to his left. He's not looking to his right. He's not looking in front of him. There's one person on that field running around with 300-pound bodies that hit people for a living, and they're there. So I mean, I get why they're trying to protect them. It's not because they're trying to make it a wussy league or anything like that. It's just they're trying to protect the guys who need the most protection. I mean, some people don't see it that way and want to talk about how it used to be played and all that stuff, but that's not the world we live in. It's the same reason that kids aren't allowed to ride in cars, have to ride in car seats till they're 10 years old now. It's because we have advances in our knowledge about what is safe and what's not safe, and it's the same thing with the hitting people. So to make the game safer, yeah, it's gonna kind of drive it to be more of a passing league. It's just it's a cause and effect to make it safer. So I don't necessarily think that it's they're trying to do it. I just think it's an effect of what they're trying to do, which is make it safer. The same thing with hitting below the waist and hitting below the waist on the quarterbacks or below the knee, and the same with like picking them up and slamming them down. The same thing with helmet to helmet contact. They're trying to make it safer. There's going to be learning curves, so what happened in, with the Green Bay and Vikings game is unfortunate, and I hope it doesn't cost anybody a shot at the playoffs because it's two very good teams that I would like to see in the playoffs. But, I'm personally all for making it safer. These guys, these guys, they do it a lot. This isn't like MMA where they can get by on one fight a year and make all their money. This isn't boxing where you can make it. I mean, and some of those guys don't. Some of those guys fight every week because, they're amateurs. Don't get me started on that. But, NFL is something I would like to see to continue, and to continue, they're going to have to develop. And I mean, as much as I like the big hits and all that stuff, God, who was it? Now I'm trying to think. There was somebody that just absolutely crushed somebody, and I cannot even. I think it was the Dallas on. Was it Eli?
Yeah, it was Eli. He had a bunch of nasty hits, dude.
Eli tried to scramble like an idiot, and our second year guy, Javion Smith.
Ooh,
the Notre Dame kid. I mean, Eli didn't try to slide. He didn't try to do nothing. He stood there like a deer in headlights, and Smith just rocked him. And I was like, holy cow. And everybody was like, dang. And then, of course, they immediately went to like, the booth is not the official booth, but like the replay booth for NBC immediately was like, was that a safe hit? Was that a safe hit?
Oh my
and it was clean. I mean, it was shoulder to chest. He had his head completely and just demolished Eli. So, I mean, you're still...
Eli had some funny faces this past weekend. If you watched him, his reactions were
that's the face you're seeing on all the memes out there. That's the face you're seeing.
I got to go back and look at the hit.
Oh man, it was gnarly, dude.
Woke up from a bad dream or something. Like, what?
I personally think that this is kind of making quarterbacks a little bit more relevant in fantasy. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially Joel and I, have kind of the similar strategies, and I don't know about you, Rodney, but I typically like to wait towards the end of the draft, I'll just stream quarterbacks. And like, for example, I picked up like Blake Bortles this week, and I'm probably going to play him for a while, honestly. I mean, he looks really good, looks pretty stout. I didn't have to draft him super high, kind of like a Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees or, and even in Joel's league, I got Drew Brees in like the 12th, 13th, 14th round, like, I'm not arguing about that at all. So it's kind of like now it's kind of making me think maybe next year I might actually look at QBs a little bit earlier than I would have normally,
Yeah, I mean, and it could come down to how the league is set up. If it's anything like our league used to be, you snag a quarterback like third round because you're going to put up like 125 points with just one guy.
Oh,
but you're gonna have Fitzmagics every year. You're gonna have Pat Mahomes every year. I mean, Carson Wentz wasn't good his first year. Then last year he was like an MVP candidate. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have it every year. I mean,
that's true.
I don't think the rules are really changing anything that dramatically. I think there is a small shift, but it's still early in the season. Defenses are still trying to figure out these offenses. They're trying to get in the swing of things. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And the last thing I'll touch on, we called it quarterbacks and kickers. So let's touch on kickers before we leave. We'll head out of here after this topic. But, the kickers this week, dude. How many of them just like – did you guys see the video of the New Orleans kicker go over to the Cleveland kicker and give him some love after the game. He was like the Cleveland guy was so hard on himself. He was hating life, and then New Orleans tried to come over there, give him some love. They should have won that game.
You got one job, bro.
You got one job, right?
And
they should have won that game. If he made all his
job,
points, they would have won that game.
Here's the thing that sucks about that one job, okay? You're the only person probably on the field that can do what you can do. You know, you got a lot of people that can catch the ball. You got a lot of people that maybe throw it, maybe run it. You only got maybe like 2 people that can kick the ball through the uprights. And that's your one job. That's what they bring you on the team to do. That's what they pay you for. And you can't cost teams games. You cannot do it. That's why I think it was Minnesota went out and got Dan Bailey.
Yeah.
So
fired your kicker.
You can't lose games as a kicker. Cannot.
Yeah, I mean, but kicking's also one of the
hardest.
I guess here's the thing. I know that nothing is consistent when you're playing in the NFL. You know, everything's going haywire and everybody's dealing with the same stuff. But when it comes to kicking a ball, like, there's nothing consistent about the way it's snapped, the way it's held, the way the ball's facing, the angles on it. Like, is it pretty close most of the time? Yeah. But is it the same? No. I mean, you look at some people, what was it, Janikowski for the Seahawks? Did you see his knuckleball at like 56-yarder going into the half in that game? Dude, he kicked that thing in it. I mean, I wanted to shoot it with a shotgun. I thought it was, I was like, oh my God, that's a duck. That ain't no football. You know, it looked awful, and it went straight down the pipe. Like, you know, and there's just, when you're kicking like that, you never know what that ball's going to do. I mean, and I'm not saying that there aren't good kickers and bad kickers, because there are obviously good kickers and bad kickers. But I think kickers get a rough life. They get given a lot of shit, but their job's not as easy as you think it is.
It's not.
And here's another thing: when a team spends a 3rd round draft pick on you, cannot miss.
Absolutely.
And that's
how about
even Aguayu, right? Let's talk
how about a 2nd round draft pick?
On a kicker.
Let's talk about that flop in Tampa Bay, right? Like,
how about a 2nd round draft pick?
Yeah, I mean,
they got him in the 2nd round.
Aguayu the 2nd round
was in the 2nd round for Tampa Bay.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Yeah, he screwed the pooch. He just where'd he go to college? No, too soon.
I was like, is he asking a serious question or is he giving me shit? Okay, got it.
Oh shit! But yeah, man, like, and that was the thing. This week was crazy. Kickers got fired. Kickers got picked up. I mean, and honestly, as an overall picture, I think the NFL has been, like, with the new rules, just as an overall, we moved the extra point back to make it harder for kickers, right? We've protected quarterbacks, so you get more quarterback play. I think this is what the league is trying to go towards. Let's get more down the field throws. Let's protect the quarterbacks. Passing is fun, running is not. Kicking for games is exciting, and that's what really brings fans. I mean, their viewership's up by like 14% this past week. I mean, they're getting more and more and better, and this is one of the most watched quote unquote television shows, right, in the entire world.
Yeah, the Monday night game always outdoes every show.
Well, I mean, it's the same reason you're seeing such an uptick in flag football and 7-on-7. Same thing, because it's becoming a passing league, and the emphasis is on that. And I mean, in flag football, you hardly ever run the ball.
Absolutely.
And that's why you're seeing an uptick in that, especially for high school players over the summers. They lots of them play in 7-on-7 leagues.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think some of these teams really need to start working on their offensive line if they want to start stepping up in this league.
My gosh, jeez.
Some of them, man. Like, Russell Wilson's running for his life. Sam Bradford's running for his life. Like,
Eli Manning is running for
his life. Like,
I mean, Eli Manning is actually running
for his life.
You know that's bad when Eli Manning is running. Like,
taking shots to the chest. Apparently, I got to watch that hit again because Joel said something about it. Man, I got to check that out. It
was bad.
All right, fellas. Well, I appreciate being on the pod tonight. We're gonna kind of wrap it up. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate doing it on a Wednesday night, a little hump day.
Hump day.
You guys want to add anything before we head out of here?
Just good luck to your teams this week. I think both Miami and Florida State should walk away with W's. They got some cupcakes this week. Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. And hopefully Washington, the first week team shows up, not that second week team. I don't know who that was. I was watching Sunday. But you better have your act together because you got Aaron Rodgers coming in FedEx Field on Sunday. So let's tighten the screws a little bit, gentlemen, please.
What about you, Joe? Got anything to add?
No, man. It's just second week of NFL football, third week of college football. Shit's going to happen.
Yeah. It's early. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Amen.
Very much so.
Amen to that, man. Well, I appreciate you fellas being on. Let's head on out of here. I'm Justin.
I'm Ron.
I'm Joel.
All right, guys. Until next time, we'll see y'all later.
Later, man.
See ya.